Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2 on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Hope y'all are staying dry relatively out there. If you're in South Louisiana, it has been a miserable day of weather. It's cold, it's rainy, it's going to get dark early. Just not my favorite time of year in terms of weather. It is just not, but that's okay. I hope y'all are getting around safely and appreciate you making us part of your Thursday. We'll talk to Chris Blair in 15 minutes. Luke Johnson talking Saints and Bucks coming up at the bottom of the hour. This segment is going to be regarding very serious content, but doing so in a very lighthearted way, because I fully admit I don't understand all the ins and outs here, and I just think it's humorous the way that politics and sports have gotten so massively intertwined. Some of it is necessary. Some of it I find very, very humorous. Some of it I find a little bit embarrassing. But it's unavoidable at this point. I'm looking at Ross Dellinger's Twitter, and now you've got a Mississippi politician, a Democrat, bashing Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise, Louisiana Republicans, over the SCORE Act, which I'll get into in a second, calling it the Lane Kiffin Act. This is just a whole quibble over rivalries at this point when we're dealing with hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in this SCORE Act. If you're not familiar with what the SCORE Act is, you're not alone. And I couldn't write a 3-page paper on the SCORE Act. I couldn't. I'm aware of it. But Ross could, and Ross can talk about it, and Ross goes on Matt's show and talks about it a lot. But I'll give you kind of some highlights here. It's the government getting involved in collegiate athletics from a financial perspective because of the amount of dollars and cents that are being funneled into it and how they're being funneled into it. You're dealing with the NIL and uniform standards for that. You're dealing with student athletes not being employees of institutions and conferences. You're dealing with the revenue sharing aspect. You're dealing with athletic revenues providing mental health programs, tax services, career counseling, medical coverages for energy. You're dealing with antitrust protections. You're dealing with the preservation of non-revenue sports. There are huge concerns with where money goes in collegiate athletics right now. And we know that some has to go to the players, and we know that the coaches are receiving a ton, and we know their facilities, and we know that a lot of folks are gearing money certain ways, which may cut other things out in terms of scholarships or even whole sports. And, y'all get that part of it. And I'm not here to dive into the ins and outs of the SCORE Act and what's good and what's not. Because I'm not good at that, y'all. I'm good at talking about who's got what left in a regional pitching rotation come Monday evening. I'm good at determining what you need to do in the last 30 seconds of a basketball game on defense or offense. I like talking about statistics and trends and those types of things. I don't know anything about the SCORE Act or who's voting for it or who's not or how it benefits LSU. I'm just not any good at that. But I do think it's humorous when the politicians get to bickering and name-calling. And you've got a quote here from Ross Dellinger from the House Minority Leader, Jeffries from Minnesota. And the quote is, "Why would Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise agree to bring the Lane Kiffin Protection Act to the floor? Legislation that will do nothing to benefit athletes and everything to benefit coaches like Lane Kiffin, who abandoned players in a playoff run for a $100 million contract at LSU." This is being said on the House floor, which he may disagree with the SCORE Act. He may, but the fact is that he is more bitterly opposed to it because the state over, with politicians on the other side of the aisle who have a coach that just abandoned his state school in a playoff, and now they're quibbling over this on the House floor after Lane Kiffin just abandoned, and he's renaming the bill. Not the SCORE Act, it's the Lane Kiffin Abandonment Act, Lane Kiffin Protection Act. And it just gets me giggling because you saw Marco Rubio sitting next to Donald Trump, and he's saying, "I'm a Florida Gator," but if Miami gets left out of this playoff, I'm going to get Trump to pick the playoff teams. And you heard Jeff Landry twice in a press conference that wasn't even about collegiate athletics. You heard him say twice that I'll let Trump pick the next coach. I'll let Trump pick the next coach. And this is what we're dealing with. Like, they're so intertwined. And I realize this is not new. Huey Long was doing this 100 years ago. So it's not new. But it just does make me chuckle at times that there are so many issues that need to be handled in this great country and great state that we live in here. And at every turn, I'm looking around and politicians are yapping about what's good and bad in sports. Now, again, to go back to my original point, I understand that when you're talking about billions of dollars that are coming through state universities with employees of those universities, and then whether or not the student athletes who attend those schools, there needs to be some oversight, because we all are very, very well aware that the NCAA is not capable of dealing with all this. They have proven themselves completely incapable of governing this thing. They kicked the can down the road on NIL so long that it just hit them in the face, and we had ridiculousness for 5 years. So, I get that part of it, and there probably does need to be some sort of overarching governing body that can put some guardrails on this thing, okay? But this is less about that for me right now, because I don't have the solution to that. I'm not smart enough to figure out how to make this thing on the up and up. But it's more about the fact that every time I turn around, there's people getting involved. And you've got political elected officials petitioning the College Football Playoff Committee, whose chair is changing. And then the new chair, Hunter Yurachek's going on ESPN and doing 6-7 jokes. And this is the sport. This is what I've literally committed my entire career to. It's my livelihood, is to talk about this sport. And I've got 6-7 jokes. I've got politicians renaming bills on the floor. I've got multiple elected officials saying Trump needs to pick football coaches and Trump needs to pick. None of this happens in Major League Baseball. None of it. In Major League Baseball, if the Rockies play the Braves, the governor of Atlanta and the governor of Colorado agree on a trade. That's what you get from elected officials. But in college, it's a complete freaking circus. You bring out the elephants. You bring out the clowns. You get the popcorn and peanuts. It's a circus. And we love it. And that's amazing. It's just, and I mean that in the truest sense, not how awesome it is. It truly amazes when you look at the dysfunction and you look at the answers that Hunter Yurachek gives and the outrage that creates, and the fact that nobody can settle on rules, and the coaches hate them and they change it, and then they hate that one, and then Lane Kiffin leaves for LSU in the middle of the playoff run because that's what the calendar says, so everyone in Mississippi is ticked off, and it's crazy, y'all. It's crazy. And it gets crazier every single day. And that's the point that I'm arriving at here. There is nothing in my life in terms of my personal interest, not talking about my career, not talking about my kids or my wife or my immediate family or those types of things that are the most important thing in your life. But you talk about just interests, hobbies. There's nothing in my life that I like more than collegiate athletics. It is my favorite hobby in the world that I turned into a career. And you look at this from 10,000 feet and go, huh? Maybe I should take up archery or something that doesn't involve this much tomfoolery. It's every day with something new. And today, it's the House floor in Washington, D.C., politicians from Mississippi and Louisiana bickering over a multi-billion-dollar bill, essentially because the coach left one state for another. That's what we've gotten to. What a beautiful disaster this all is. Let's talk to Chris Blair about it when we come back. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Chugging towards the weekend. Luke Johnson in 15 minutes talking black and gold. Stick with the Tigers now. Voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, good enough to give us some time on Thursdays. With us now on the Jim's Farms Hotline. Chris, how are you?
Good, man. Trying to recover late night from Boston flying in, but a good win for LSU and Coach Matt McMahon.
How was the weather up there in Boston?
It was cold. It was rainy. I think we took off somewhere around 1:15 Eastern, and then the weather when we got to Baton Rouge was pretty tough, so they diverted us to New Orleans, and then a bus ride back to Baton Rouge, and I walked in the door about 7:30.
Yuck. Not great. We appreciate you being here. Sorry to call you. You should have told me not to call. But
No, got him up and running now.
All right, let's talk about that game last night because it was so good early, it was so bad in the middle, and it was so good late. What did you see from courtside?
Yeah, it's one of those games that I think you can hang your hat on if you're leaning in the optimistic view of this team, Hunt. And I think you and I are, in the sense that they really didn't shoot the ball well outside of maybe the first 7-8 minutes of the game, and they were red hot and built up an early lead. And you could kind of see, wow, this is kind of what we thought it would be: a team averaging about 90 points and a team averaging about 70 points. But credit Boston College. I think they made some adjustments defensively. They went with their two bigs to try to neutralize Nwoko, especially in the second half after he came back in, getting early foul trouble in the first half. I thought they did a good job of kind of denying, his ability to hang around the rim, also frustrating him a little bit. And then LSU just didn't hit shots. But Coach Brady says it all the time: defense and rebounding will travel. That's a want to. That's an attitude. That's a mindset. And I think last night's game was a perfect example where, you had guys who typically their shots, we've seen them make them through the first 8 games, and they just did not go down time and time again. And I give DJ Thomas a ton of credit. It would be easy to get frustrated. He missed a couple of shots, the little floaters in the lane that he normally gets. But you still felt like down the stretch, to get it to overtime and then into overtime, it was going to take either DJ, Markelle, or Nwoko to kind of take the game over. And as it turned out in overtime, it was DJ Thomas who finished the last 4 points. And really in a crazy anomaly stat-wise. LSU perfect from the field, perfect from the line, perfect from the three-point line, and Boston College 0 for 8 in overtime, which you just don't see that often. But, again, I think credit goes to LSU's defense. When they had to get some plays and get some stops, they got them.
I thought it was the first real adversity of the season for LSU where they just simply couldn't make a bucket. And to respond to that, I thought showed a lot of poise on the road. I wouldn't call it a hostile environment. You would know better than I. But to respond to it on the road, I thought was impressive. And it kind of showed, I think when their back's against the wall, likely Thomas is going to be the guy that they hand it to and say, hey, we need you here.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And Coach Brady, I mean, he's seen some really good players, not only ones that played for him, but those that played against him and those that we see now. I mean, he's certainly making an argument for the best point guard in the SEC. I mean, it's impossible to really stop him on the dribble. And it's been amazing. And, again, the competition is going to get better. The film's going to get out there. So I think the teams are going to make adjustments, and it may start as soon as this weekend against Texas Tech. But so many teams this year, Hunt, have just kind of let him operate, 70-plus feet before anybody gives him any friction. And when you do that, you're just asking for trouble. And there were a couple of times where he knifed through the defense. I mean, started top of the key and went left, went right, crossover behind the back, and suddenly he's at the rim. He's hard once he's going downhill to stop.
He is. Last one on basketball, unfortunately, on the negative side. Jalen Reed, just feel awful for the young man after fighting back from last year's injury to go out again. I know you spent a lot of time around him over the last 4 years, and it's really brutal for him. But I do feel like LSU, unlike last year, is equipped to handle that absence a little bit better with the depth they have in the front court. Kind of your thoughts on that entire situation, one with Jalen and two with the guys that are going to be asked to fill in for him.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the unfairness of what is taking place for Jalen Reed, a guy who has put in all the work, last year on December 3rd, set, for the end of the season with the knee injury, and then just fought his way back, got back ahead of schedule, and was, to all indications, bigger, faster, and stronger. And then to have this injury, almost a year to the day, to sideline him again for a season, it's just unfair. And it's just a tough break. and I talked to Coach while we were in Boston for 2 days about, how do you kind of handle that? And he said, it's going to need more minutes. I mean, Nwoko's going to have to find a way to avoid getting into early foul trouble, but he's going to have to learn to play with fouls. And Rob Miller is going to be a big X factor. And, last night I think he played, around 25 minutes, somewhere in that neighborhood. And again, Nwoko got into foul trouble early, but, Robert finished the game in the positive column. I think he was +4 for the game with 8 points and 5 rebounds. And, we saw some flashes from him at the end of last year. So I think there were times maybe early this season he was frustrated with the lack of playing time, but that's going to go away now. He's going to be called upon. And, at times we may see Markel Sutton kind of slide down to the 4 position, which we saw a little bit last night. And again, he's got the skill set to do it, but it's going to take a team effort. But I think Rob Miller could be a huge factor. His opportunity to contribute is going to be there, and it'll start again. It started last night, and it'll continue this weekend.
Shift over to football. I have not talked about the LSU-Oklahoma game once. It is Thursday, so I might as well toss it to you since you were there. Heck of an effort by the defense. Just one busted play there at the end. What was your impression of Blake Baker's defense there in Norman?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I mean, that was the storyline. I mean, you got 2 pedestrian offenses and 2 really good defenses. And, I think I said it multiple times before kickoff and then early in the game. I just felt like when you look at what these 2 offenses, struggle with and the strengths of these 2 defenses, it felt like whatever defense blinked first and blinked the most. And as it turned out, you nailed it. It was one busted play where we let a man just go free in Satania. He did a similar thing to Missouri the week before, I think, on an 87-yard touchdown. I think this one against LSU was 58 yards. You take that play away, and still LSU with a chance late, obviously, but that's what it came down to. And, I think things have been done over the last couple of days while I was in the Northeast to remedy those offensive woes.
Yeah, they have. Have you chatted with your color man, Jake Hester, say you're going to have to be a little bit quicker with the analysis of the plays because they're going to snap it pretty fast?
Yeah, it's going to be moving quick. We got practice over the last couple of years playing Ole Miss, so when they're on offense, we knew there wasn't a whole lot for going on and droning and bloviating. You got to get to the point. But yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it was exciting being in Boston. Walking around, people would see us, and immediately that's all they wanted to talk about. Well, we're here for football, but yeah, what about Lane Kiffin? Yeah, what's that going to be like? I mean, that's what even those up there were interested in. So it's obviously a huge story.
We'll let you get some rest here this afternoon. I know y'all are headed to Fort Worth for Sunday's game against Texas Tech. You got a thought on that before I let you go?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. This was probably the most adversity LSU had faced last night on the road against Boston College, and we're able to overcome it with defense and really a dedication to rebounding. This will be obviously the biggest test of the year. I mean, obviously Texas Tech, a really good program over the last several years, and they're loaded up again this season. It's on a neutral floor. Hoping to see a lot of Tiger fans there. I think your team at 9-0 deserves that. But it'll be a good measuring stick and a big opportunity to take on a team as LSU continues to climb in the net rankings. You get a chance to play a team that's also high in the net rankings, pull out a win. I mean, suddenly you start to really create your own fortune, if you know what I mean. So big opportunity.
Chris, we appreciate some time. We'll be listening on Sunday. Thanks.
You got it, boss.
He's the voice of the Tigers. Chris Blair gives us some time on Thursdays. He mentioned LSU headed up to play Texas Tech on Sunday. I'll preview that game tomorrow. Looking forward to that. That's clearly LSU's most stern test of the season. So looking forward to see how they respond to that. Going to have to play a really good basketball game. If they play like they did in the first 15 minutes on last night, they'll be okay. If they play like they did in the last 6 minutes last night, they'll be okay. They play like they did for about a 12-minute stretch in the second half, they'll get crushed. But that's the beauty of going out there and tipping it off. Never know what you're going to see. So appreciate Chris for giving us a little bit of time. I have a little bit of time here before I get to Luke Johnson, so I'll tell you all a little bit of breaking news, not necessarily regarding LSU in the last 15 minutes. Kentucky has hired an offensive coordinator.
Who is this guy?
Joe Sloan, going to be the new offensive coordinator at Kentucky. He'll go join the staff with Will Stein. Now, I'll tell you, Will Stein is the head coach at Kentucky. He's going to finish out the season where he's the offensive coordinator at Oregon, and then they're going to go into the Bluegrass and be the head coach at Kentucky. And Will Stein played at Louisville was a GA there for a couple of years, GA at Texas. He actually took a divert over to Lake Travis High School, where he was their associate head coach and offensive coordinator at the big-time high school there in Austin. Went over to UTSA, coached for 3 seasons, and then was hired from UTSA to be the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for Dan Lanning, and has done a great job over the last 3 seasons. Kentucky hires him as their head coach, and he will bring Joe Sloan to Kentucky with him. So Stein is going to have a massive input in what Oregon does offensively, but Joe Sloan will be the offensive coordinator. Clearly way too early to know who's calling plays and what that whole situation is.
Man.
But Joe Sloan lands on his feet in the SEC.
Man, my condolences to Blue. What is it, Big Blue Nation? My
It is the
condolences.
BBN.
Yeah, my condolences, man. Don't worry. We're in basketball season. Just focus on that.
I promise you,
Yeah.
they will focus on that. You
Yeah.
don't need to tell them twice; they'll be focused on that.
My gosh.
I had some interactions with Joe Sloan, as I mentioned, going up to do the assistant coach interviews on Fridays. Another great guy who enjoyed his time here, and as his time here ended poorly, and he was let go because of it. And he would tell you that their statistics this year were unacceptable. They could not run the ball again. The passing game crumbled. He didn't do a good enough job this year. There's no question about that. But Joe Sloan was a part of Jaden Daniels, Mike Denbrock development there, and did help a quarterback to over 4,000 yards last year and finished first in the SEC in third downs. It wasn't a complete failure until it just flopped this year. Now, I know 98% of y'all driving around in the car going, God, you're such a homer loser. Although I was told yesterday that I was too much of a pessimist. So
Really?
I think in that way, it just you rub people the right different ways. It doesn't really matter. I'm just telling you what I think. I think that Joe Sloan didn't do a good enough job to keep that job this year. And I think that Joe Sloan's entire run here in Baton Rouge was not a complete failure. And now he'll get a chance to land on his feet. I'm glad for that. I'm glad for Joe that he lands on his feet at Kentucky, and we'll see what his role is there under a very offensive-minded head coach. But glad to see him land on his feet there in the Southeastern Conference. Joe Sloan headed to Kentucky to be the offensive coordinator under Will Stein. We'll step aside. We'll come back. We'll chat Saints with Luke Johnson next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. I was chatting with David recently. He said, what's something that y'all have seen more of, that y'all have done more of recently? He said, this is very, very popular. If you're in a house that was built in the 90s at some point, so you're looking at a house that is around 30 years old, at that point, a lot of times some of the plumbing situation, some of the bathtub, shower situations can start to malfunction, can start to deteriorate. And sometimes you just want to do a quick fix and you call the handy guy down the street and give him some cash and he tries to figure it out and maybe patch that up for 6 months, 8 months, and then there's another issue. Well, you can go ahead and do something about it. A lot of those bathrooms were done with those big, giant jacuzzi-style tubs that no one ever uses anymore, or they don't work. If that's the case, you know how much space those use? Take that out and use that space for a shower that you will use. If you've already got a standing shower, like a lot of those houses did in the 90s, you can turn that into a linen closet, which David Vaughn and One Bath and Closets can do. They can handle the flooring. They can handle the vanity. They can do a complete transformation of your bathroom if it's dated or if it's not working properly. Let someone with a licensed, bonded, insured business of 30-plus years, let somebody with a master plumber certified to come in and help you with that. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online, onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
All right, been a lot going on in our backyard here, so we hadn't talked a lot about the Saints this week. Let's change that. Let's talk about the Saints as they try to rebound from a loss last week at Miami. They will travel to Tampa coming up on Sunday. Luke Johnson covers them for NOLA.com and The Advocate with us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how we doing?
Hunt, my guy, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's our pleasure. Let's go briefly back to the game against Miami. A tale of two halves, essentially, and it's another bad start for the Saints. Like, how do they fix that?
I mean, I don't know, man. I think their run game is broken. They've got one time in the last 8 games that they topped 90 yards in a game on the ground. And it hasn't mattered whether it's been Alvin Kamara, Kendra Miller was part of that for a little bit. Devin Neal. I think their interior offensive line is just broken. And when you're kind of one-dimensional, as they have been, it just makes it really hard to win. Yeah, they got into a lot better situations in the second half. They ran the ball a little bit better in the second half, but it's hard for them to sustain that over the course of a game. And then it magnifies other things. Tyler Shuck had two off-target throws in the first half, noticeably off target. And they both came on third down on makeable third downs. One was low to Mason Tipton on a 3rd and 7 where Tipton wasn't able to get any yards after the catch, got tackled a yard shy of the sticks. And another one was on 3rd and 4. He has Juwan Johnson open, and he kind of lets the ball drift toward the middle of the field where a defender is able to make a play on it. So you get a couple plays there, and who knows what happens. I mean, Shuck came to life in the second half, but when you're looking at the first half in totality, I mean, they had 63 net yards. They had 4 out of their first 5 drives for 3 and outs. The only one that wasn't was a fumble on the 4th play of the drive. So it's when it's bad, it's really bad. And then when it looks good, you're like, you can see some hope there. So I don't know. It's really just hard to square with these guys.
It is, but they've figured things out in the second half, to your point, in multiple games, and they came alive in the second half and gave themselves a chance to win. So do you see something significantly different in the second half, or you think they just ease into a game and figure some things out as they go?
Well, I mean, part of it is your team's playing differently when they're protecting
Sure.
For Miami it was a 16-point lead, and we've seen that they have played a lot of catch-up ball this year, which I think can lead to some things opening up for you. But I think in the second half they just made plays. Tyler Shuck opened that second half with 6 straight completions, and every single one of them went for a first down. They didn't have a play of more than 10 yards in the entire first half. So each of those first 6 completions went for more than 11 yards. It's there, but I do think that the game script does have something to do with that, and teams will defend you differently, and it'll open up more stuff because they know if you're going to have to put together 10, 11, 12 play drives, and we're holding a 16-point lead, we feel pretty good about that.
When you look at Shock, I think the thing that probably gives Saints fans the most encouragement is the highlight reel plays. Do you need to see more efficiency and consistency, or is the highlight plays enough to look like this guy really could be the deal?
Yeah. So for me, I think when Shuck was being named the starter, the outlook I had on this originally was, yes, you would love to win some games with Tyler Shuck. You'd love to see some. You'd love to see some just full, complete performances to really just put you at ease, right? And I think I still want to see some of that, but really the most important thing is that you are seeing consistent high-level traits. He's not going to develop the same way Jackson Dart is, right? That's the one thing where I think his age does become a factor. There's not going to be huge leaps that he makes, probably. But if he shows you that he has some truly, I don't even want to say elite, just you can see a top 15 quarterback there in moments. And if the lows aren't so bad that you're we can't live with this guy. That's to me that is enough to roll with him and build around him. And I think he has shown that. Honestly, I think in every single game, even the ones that have gone poorly, like the Rams game, you've seen some really brilliant moments out of him. And it's coming in a lot of different ways. He's been excellent in the scramble phase, extending plays, letting guys get open downfield and then ripping it to him. But he's been good in the pocket, and he's navigated the pocket really well. And I think we haven't even seen a lot of him as a runner, which I think is something that he can be really dangerous at. We saw a little bit of it on the 2-point conversion play last week. The one that worked for the Saints, not the one that went the other way for a score for Miami. So I'm encouraged by what I've seen. I think for me, I've seen enough good things over the first 4 starts to be I think I'd be comfortable building around him and giving him a year to show what he can do. Because the highs I think have been much more pronounced than the lows have been.
One of the lows for this team was the first game against Tampa in the Dome. Shuck and Rattler split that game. It was when Shuck took over in the second half. Rattler's QBR in that game was 11.9. Shuck's was 6.4. East threw an interception, no touchdowns, and the Saints ran it 15 times for 48 yards. How do they do anything against the Bucs defense this time around?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be Shuck carrying the load.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just referenced, their rushing attack has just been abysmal this year. I think they're 29th in the NFL in rushing, and it's felt that way. They've had like one or two games where it's really looked good, and I think the offense as a whole looked good because of it. But they're generating no explosives. They're getting way, way, way too many plays that are stuffed for 1 or 2 yards on first down, and Tampa is a really good run defense. They have been for years, and they are again this year. But if you look at when this defense has had trouble, and granted it has come against some really, really good passers. When they were in that 3-game losing streak to New England and LA and Buffalo, they were giving up like 300 yards a game through the air in those games. But then last week they played against the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. They threw for 291 on them.
Yeah.
So I think they're gettable there in the air. But it's going to have to be like a Tyler Shuck game to me, unless something just clicks out of nowhere with this rushing attack that it just frankly has not been good this season.
Reason for encouragement with Devon Bailey last week?
Yeah, man. Come on, dude. How the hell did it get to be week 13 before we saw it?
Yeah.
It's obvious to you and me, right? That they needed to get him involved. Beyond just the price they paid for him, right? It's obviously if you're going to pay a 4th-round pick for a guy, get him involved. But he has, you're looking at a 6'5", 210-pound guy. You're why aren't they throwing him the ball? And then the first time they do it, he has 8 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. It's okay, do that more. Hey, they got 5 games left. I want to see 40 targets at least for Bailey over the last 5 games. There's no reason they can't get there. Just feature him in Olave. It was really, really impressive what he did last week. Hopefully we see a lot more of it because I think he's a good player.
We shall see. It'll be the Saints and the Bucs Sunday noon on CBS from Tampa. Luke will be there. We'll talk to him next week. Thanks, Luke.
Yep. See you, buddy.
Luke Johnson, NOLA.com, @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter if you're looking for your Saints content. He's with us on Thursdays. Our Saints content, you can see it at Hunt on Saints over there on YouTube, wherever you find your sound. Saints going to score a touchdown this week, Jordan? They didn't quite get there against Tampa last time.
Oh, I got to say yeah.
I appreciate that.
I just have to say yes.
I appreciate you saying yes.
This is not LSU versus Oklahoma where it's this is, maybe Shuck can, I'm not going to act like Shuck's been bad or anything. So I think he can make something shake for sure.
I'm watching LSU highlights up there on the TV. DJ Pickett's making a lot of plays. I hope DJ Pickett plays for LSU next year. And I feel like he has a good chance to because you saw Haven Finney sign his paperwork yesterday, which I forgot to mention in the first segment. And I didn't talk about him yesterday, but Haven Finney did sign, and that would indicate to me there's a good chance Corey Raymond is back because Haven Finney said publicly, like to see what Corey Raymond's going to do.
Yep.
So feel like Haven Finney, good one to come in. Got DJ Pickett, got PJ Woodland, and I think those guys want to play for Corey Raymond. So hopefully you can keep him around, keep those guys around, and form a really good DBU secondary moving into next year. But that's just me talking based on what I'm looking at on the TV screen in the studio, which is generally not how we run the show, but I get distracted sometimes when good stuff's going on, and that was good stuff. So we'll come back and close it up.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. Perfect example of why Swing Easy Golf Club is awesome. You might love golf. You might want to play golf today. You might want to work on your golf game today, and you can't because it's been raining since 2 o'clock in the morning and it's 40-something degrees. You can't go play golf, but you can at Swing Easy Golf Club. You go into one of their indoor bays, got perfect hitting mat to hit off of. You got comfortable seating. You can bring some cold beer in there. You got some music. You hit some golf balls. You tee it up at Pebble Beach. I love playing on the simulator. If you've never done it, give it a shot. It's surprisingly accurate. When I was doing that stream a couple of weeks ago at Swing Easy, it could tell when I was hitting a Titleist Pro V1 and when I was hitting a beat-up Strixon. Like the ball was reacting on the green. With the Pro V1, it was spinning back. With the Strixon, it was bouncing out, which is what it would happen if you played out on outdoors. And the technology that's in there at Swing Easy can identify that for you. So it is pretty realistic. When you go play, you hit chip shots, you hit putts, and it's a great way to just go enjoy playing some golf when the weather's garbage like it is today. They're on Segan at Perkins. Just go by and give them a shot. If you're an avid golfer, if you're just picking the game up, if you want to practice, if you'd like to play, if you got friends, if you're by yourself, no matter the situation, Swing Easy is a great place to go hang out and play a little bit of golf. They're online at swingeasygcbr.com. They're on Segan at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
How often will trash rangers come to your business and pick up your trash? We pick up commercial trash up to 6 times a week, depending on your schedule. For more info, visit trashrangers.com today.
Bayou Ford and Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. 5 brands on one lot. Shop BayouAutomotive.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Every cow at Sagrera Farms, you're talking about a process from the genetic mating of these superior animals to them being raised on grass, finished on grain, then dry aged 30 to 45 days. It creates an amazingly consistent product at Sagrera Farms. You're talking about top 1% of beef in the country, and it's right here just outside of Baton Rouge. So in 2026, if you're looking to change the way that you buy your beef, you want to go to Sagrera Farms, get a whole cow, get a side, get a quarter, and put that in the freezer so you've got it when you need some ground beef. You've got it when you're ready to do steaks on a Friday or Saturday night. You want ribeyes, you want fillets, you want strips, you want that flank steak, you want that skirt steak, you want that chuck roast, and you want it to be incredibly marbled and tender and flavorful. Prime. That's what it is at Sagrera Farms. So call Sean. Tell him you heard about it on the Hunt Palmer Show. Say, hey, I want to talk about some beef because I'm ready to fill my freezer with some of the most delicious, flavorful beef in the country. You can do that. 719-1723, Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. We have breaking news twofold. 2 breaking news stories to finish the show with. The first one, I know you're all interested in. I just got a picture of my kid who's at Disney World with his grandmother, and I told him that Disney World had the biggest golf ball in the world. That thing at Epcot, it's a big ride.
Epcot?
Yeah. He's there. He's pointing at it. So that's breaking news. Myers pointing at the big golf ball. 2, the actual breaking news that you care about. Richard Anderson's paperwork is in at LSU. Big Rich officially signed with the LSU Tigers. We told you right at the top of the show, almost 2 full hours ago, that Bryce Brown told our Mount Nascona, yeah, there's a clerical error yesterday. He will have it in after testing this morning. I said, I believe Bryce Brown. He's the coach there. He has no reason to lie to us. So we reported at LouisianaSports.net. But I also went, what was this clerical error? Like, can we just resend the fax over? Are they still doing faxes? Or we got some sort of scanned PDF? Can we just make the change? Like, what kind of clerical error are we dealing with that takes that long to get it dealt with? Because he said he was going to sign 24 hours ago. But I don't really care about the clerical error now because the clerical error has been fixed up. And Richard Anderson, 5-star, number 1 defensive tackle in the country out of Edna Carr, has sent his paperwork into LSU. So the wait still remains for Lamar Brown. We're told that he is expected to sign his paperwork tomorrow. Right now, it sounds like LSU in great shape. I have no reason to believe that LSU won't be the pick tomorrow. I know that there were discussions that Richard Anderson and his representation, Lamar Brown and his representation were going to have with the LSU staff. And, obviously things got ironed out with Big Rich, and we'll see what happens with Lamar Brown moving forward. But Big Richard Anderson, a official member of LSU's signing class. 1 more day to go with the early signing period. We'll see what happens over the next 24 hours, and we'll certainly talk about it on tomorrow's show. But we have 1 more order of business for this show. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
It's a cool thing when you think about Yingling. Go to their website and check on their team, their executive team. They're all literally Yinglings. You're talking about a family business that has been passed down generation to generation to generation. I was talking to one of the reps over at Yingling a couple weeks ago. He said, yeah, Sam Yingling's like 93. He still rides the tractor around. Like, it's a family business. America's oldest brewery. It's a family business that you're purchasing when you get Flight by Yuengling. It's the next generation of light beer.
Okay, so a lot of people like to say demon is home. Well, a real demon is home, as the Browns have designated Deshaun Watson to return to practice, opening a 21-day window to which, he can be moved to the active roster or placed on injury reserve for the rest of the season. Will Watson suit up for the Browns this season? Take it or leave it?
Take it.
I'll take it.
Put the jersey on? Sure. I don't know. You want to know something?
Yes.
I don't know who the quarterback for the Browns is.
Right now, Shador.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right now, Shador.
Look, I'm going to be candid with you again. Sunday, LSU was working on Coach flying into town.
Yeah.
I didn't watch a lot of NFL football. I know Shador actually has played decent.
Yeah,
That's come my way through the Twitterverse. And I don't even know if they played on Sunday. I think they may have played earlier.
Yeah, they played. They lost though. They played somebody. I can't tell you.
I didn't do the NFL on Sunday. I didn't do the NFL on Friday. It was not an NFL weekend. It was LSU's probably hiring Lane Kiffin this weekend. Make sure everything's together. Oh, by the way, try to spend some time with your family weekend. I didn't do a lot of
Remember
NFL.
your dad.
I saw the Saints. I know what the Saints did. They were terrible to start, and they almost beat the Vikings. They recovered an onside kick. We can cover the Saints. I don't know what Shador. I don't know what the Browns are doing. I'm not up to speed on the Browns.
You're not missing nothing.
Exactly. So if Deshaun wants to play, that's great. If he doesn't, that's great. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Deshaun, but I do need to hear that. What is Demons coming home? I never heard of this.
A lot of people are like, oh, Demons home. Well, Deshaun Watson's an actual demon. The real demon is actually home this time. Right. So yesterday we talked about Giannis wanting out of Milwaukee and requesting a trade, going to the Knicks. Well, last night, Giannis went down for non-contact injury. I know we're on radio, but I'm doing air quotes, wink, wink, non-contact injury. Now it's come out today that it's a calf strain, and he's out for the next 2 to 4 weeks. I wish we could show you the clip. I'm telling you, wink, wink, went down with a non-contact injury. So is Giannis interesting timing for this injury, huh? Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
I'll take
a little conspirity theory.
Yeah,
I'll tell you this. I hate a conspiracy theory. Some people say I love a conspiracy theory. Yeah. I hate a conspiracy theory. I hate them. Because we deal with this garbage every single Tuesday when everybody jumps on Twitter and goes, well, the committee's just trying to do this. They're trying to do this. They're trying to. I was like, maybe they're just ranking them how they think. Maybe they just think that's how the ranking should go. Is that so hard to think? And then you got, whether or not. I can't deal with the conspiracy theories. I'm not good at them. I choose not to believe them. I understand that may be hiding my head in the sand. People ask about UFOs all the time. I'm just fine with my head in the sand on UFOs. I don't need to know where they are, who's driving them around. I don't care. I got to pay the mortgage next month. I can't deal with the aliens. So I'm not good on conspiracy theories. I'll just say that.
Well, I don't know. We might be seeing Giannis in some new colors. All I'm gonna say.
He might be an alien.
Yeah,
he and Wemby might be aliens for all I know. They're good at basketball.
Oh, I'm about the gym. So, wrap this up. Lane Kiffin will head to Atlanta to appear on College Game Day this Saturday. Will he troll Ole Miss? Take it or leave it?
I'll leave it. He's not going to do that. Here's the deal. I believe this. This is not me playing tongue in cheek. I really believe this. I think Lane Kiffin really likes a lot of the people involved in Ole Miss. Like, he and Keith Carter may not be on great terms right now. Yeah. I could even see a thing where he and Pete Golding aren't on great terms if you heard some of the reports out of Oxford. Like, that's possible. It was probably really messy going out of there. But, like, the players that he recruited and developed, and, like, I think he wanted to beat Mississippi State even though he knew he was leaving last week. So, like, I don't think he's going to get on there and go hard on Ole Miss right now. I think there will come a time when he's the LSU coach that he may have something to say. If LSU goes to Oxford and wins next year, there may be a tweet. There will be a tweet. This very second, I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's going to go. I think he's going to talk very nicely about Ole Miss and where they should be in the playoff. And I think he's going to promote LSU. That's what I think he's going to do on college.
Not even a little something.
ESPN wasn't going to miss that chance to get him on the desk. Obviously, has the same representation as a lot of them on that desk. We should have known that was coming.
Oh yeah. That's it for Take It or Leave It.
All right, that's it for Take It or Leave It. Brought to you by Flight by Yuengling, the next generation of light beer. Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef. That's all for us. We talked at the top of the show about LSU and signing day. Talked about Blake Baker's future, which I believe is going to materialize here in the next 48 hours or so. Had a lot of LSU discussion in the first hour. Second hour, we talked to Chris Blair and Luke Johnson. That's it for us. You can catch it all on demand. Matt's going to drive you home next on After Further Review.
The Hunt Palmer Show.